Hello and welcome to the CNBC TV 18 special. Over the last 1 month, many in India have been transfixed by the stunning victory of Donald Trump. Many saw this verdict as an anti-establishment vote and how it underscored the deep disillusionment of Americans with globalization in its current form, where a handful of the very powerful elite decide the fate of millions. At a time when globalization is facing a severe test and global consensus seems to be breaking down just when we need it the most, especially with the climate crisis staring us in the face, what does it mean for the world we live in? Earlier this weekend, I sat down with Jeffrey Sachs, director at Earth Institute and professor at the University of Columbia, who's also a special advisor on climate change to the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, to try and make sense of what this breakdown in global consensus means for UN's millennial and sustainable development goals, something that he worked for very closely, and what we can expect from Donald Trump, the president. Take a look. Professor Sachs, thanks very much for speaking with CNBC. You spoke about how we can reach the Sustainable Development Goals, the Millennial Development Goals, and that will require clearly a lot of global cooperation. Considering that, the election verdicts that we've seen and the general rightward sort of tilt, many would say that the global consensus is breaking down. In such an environment, doesn't that threaten the SDG, the MDG goals that we've set for ourselves?
Definitely, these goals are hard to achieve, and they're under threat by politicians. And those of us who know that these goals can be achieved and that the purpose of politics, the true purpose, is not to feed greed and not to make wars, but to help improve people's lives, we have to fight back. And when the politicians hand over the government, as seems to be happening in the United States right now, to the big banks, to the generals, to even the oil companies, we have to say no. This is ridiculous. This is no way to achieve the goals that the world wants. And so I believe that those of us who are specialists, who know that we can end poverty, who know that health could reach everybody, who know that we can move to a safe energy system, we have to say to politicians who don't necessarily know, whose game is power, not human well-being, come on, you've got to change or we're really going to have quite a political battle about this.
But clearly at this point in time, many people seem to be enamored by this, by the rhetoric, which is again premised on anti-immigration and almost, generating these tribal, sentimentalities. In such a situation, how worried should we be? Do you feel that this is perhaps a passing phase, as we've seen historically?
I think this is a very dangerous phase. It's absurd in the sense that we could be solving so many problems. Look at my country, the United States. We had wars of choice in Iraq, in Syria, in Libya. Every one a disaster. We spent trillions of dollars wasted in the United States on these idiotic wars. And then the government turns around and says, oh, we have no money for schools, we have no money for clinics. So I have no patience for these politicians right now. They're on the wrong course, they're telling the wrong things to the people. And we have to say...
But people are believing in these things.
Yes, because they haven't heard properly that there's a better way. And people sense there's a better way, but they're not hearing it from the candidates. Why? Because in the United States, for example, big money buys both parties. And so, if you vote for the Democrats, you get the Wall Street in the government. If you vote for the Republicans, you get Wall Street in the government. The public doesn't have a choice right now. And we need to give a better choice that says there's a way that really can make people better off, not this game that's being played. It's this Wall Street company, that Wall Street company, this big oil company, that big oil company. This is what is really ruining the politics, for instance, in my country.
Right, but what is really the role for the private sector, really? Because many people say that government cannot achieve the targets that they've set out for themselves without active cooperation and help from the private sector. In such a situation, what can corporate houses do, despite, the fact that they may not have started on a good note, and in many cases regulations may be sort of, tailor-made and made them for their benefit. But clearly there is a role that the private sector can here also play.
I have two main roles for the private sector. One is stay out of government right now. Why do we have Goldman Sachs? Why do we have Goldman Sachs 3 positions in the senior administration of Donald Trump? 3 positions in one investment bank. It's outrageous. Stay out of government. And if he follows through on what's said right now, that he's going to appoint, it's almost hard to believe, the head of ExxonMobil as the Secretary of State. This is one rumor right now. This would be unbelievable. Why not just turn the whole government over to the businesses? Why not just forget the whole thing? So the first thing is stay out of government. Second, stop breaking the law. Because the banks in the United States basically were acting like criminal organizations. They paid tens of billions of dollars of fines for cheating, insider information, financial fraud. But what happened to the CEOs? Oh, they go to the state dinners, they go to the cabinet positions, even though their companies have broken the law time and time and time again. So stop breaking the laws. My second advice to the businesses: if you want to make money, do it honestly, and if you break the law, I think the CEO should go to jail, because this is so relentless right now. And this is really the problem. Our government in my country has been taken over by the big business sector. And of course it's not working for the average person.
You know what's paradoxical, Professor, is that many of us seeing the U.S. elections from the outside felt that this was an anti sort of, the verdict and the anger really of the American people was against what you're saying about how corporates have sort of, have manipulated rule making and regulations. But here they elected somebody who was, in a sense, a manifestation of the problems that the people were up against. And now the worst fears are coming true, where he goes back and he actually appoints, and even his choice for the head of EPA, for instance. So
I'll tell you what's happening.
What is going on?
What is happening is that inequality rose so much in the United States because for basically since 1981, since Ronald Reagan became president, they cut the taxes of the rich, they allowed the tax havens, they allowed all the cheating to go on. Year after year, administration after administration in the hands of Wall Street and big business. Okay, people are furious. So here comes Donald Trump, and you know what he tells them? He doesn't tell them that, oh, look who's stealing from you, you're rich Americans. He tells them, oh, it's the Mexicans, it's the Muslims, it's the Chinese. And so he really cleverly said it's the foreigners that are doing it to you, the foreigners. And that's playing on this nationalism, but people are hurting. They don't have jobs, their incomes have gone down, they don't have a future, they can't afford health care, the student debt is $1 trillion, and Donald Trump became president basically by blaming it on foreigners. And of course this is dangerous and it's phony. And now he's putting in absolutely the wolves that created this mess to a great extent.
You say it's phony. Many economists have also said that, especially in a world where population is aging, you need immigrants, all right, to increase economic growth. So, but what he's saying is something which is also factually incorrect. Are we now staring at a post-facts world, so to speak, where facts don't matter? It's perception that that will eventually determine which way people will vote.
Donald Trump was a true TV star for 11 years of a reality TV show. That's what we have now. We have reality TV, and I just watched as I arrived in Delhi this morning, flipped on CNN, and watched an absurd discussion where somebody pointed out that our new national security advisor made some outrageous statements about Arabic signs on the Mexican border, saying, it's to tell the terrorists how to get into the U.S. Completely phony, and so on. So he asked a Trump professional political advisor, so what about this? And she said, well, you can't prove that he's wrong. Not that he has a responsibility to show that it's true. You can't prove absolutely that it's wrong. And the interviewer didn't challenge her, because that's also corporate media, I'm afraid. So it's not good right now. The truth is a game. Like you say, it's just batted over the net by both sides. big money is ruling the day. Doesn't matter which party's elected right now. People are unhappy, and the trick is blame the foreigner. And that works for a while until it doesn't work.
And how do you fix the system?
You fix the system by telling the truth about what's going on.
People are not willing to hear the truth.
There was one candidate, Bernie Sanders, who came very close based on the truth. But the machine beat him, so he couldn't defeat Hillary Clinton because she represented the mainstream of the Democratic Party, but he came very close. That's politics that can work.
If Bernie Sanders was the Democratic presidential nominee, you think the race would have been closer?
He would have beaten Trump hands down.